Hey, what's up? So I wanted to add a little insert to this video before I put it out there, because I looked back on it and I noticed a couple of things and I thought this was important to point out. A couple of points. So first of all, I'm using a different lens right now than I used on the video, the main part of the video. Right now I'm using the Sony 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens, which is a little bit less quality than the other one, but it's got a wider, a better, wider angle focal range. So I'm at 16 millimeters right now, so it's easy for me to be close to the camera. The main part of the video, I use the Sony 35 millimeter f1.8 OSS, which is the equivalent of a 52 millimeter. And so I couldn't get really close to the camera. The reason I'm pointing this out, it was crazy bright outside, and so I couldn't really see myself well enough in the little flip-up screen to make sure that my exposure was correct and stuff like that. So I think it's just a good lesson for me in choosing lenses for different circumstances. I chose the wrong lens. It's not about distortion or anything like that. It was just, just really basic, fundamental, like I could not see myself well enough in that kind of circumstance. There was really no reason for me to have to be 15 feet away from the camera to do that vlog. So that's why maybe I was a little overexposed. And the other thing, it was crazy bright outside, and so you see my eyes were squinty the whole time. I could hardly keep my eyes open. So that's the other thing. The other thing I wanted to point out was in the video, I used an example of theater and film in a way to talk about finishing projects, which was the whole point of the video. I use those examples because that's what I do. I use my own personal experience. Finishing something could be used for anything. You could just say that what I did was kind of like a metaphor for anything else. But, I just wanted to point that out, that that's what I do. Like, I know how to write and finish a play, and, I actually know how to write it, how to bring it to fruition, how to produce it, how to get it in front of an audience, how to do everything. I know how to write a screenplay. I know how to make a miniseries. I know how to make a movie. Now, I'm new to this filmmaking world, so, I'm still learning about aperture and white balance and ISO and stuff like that. Choosing the proper lenses, obviously, I screwed that up. I'm still learning a lot, I'm still learning how to use autofocus properly. I'm using manual focus most of the time. But I do know how to make a smartphone film, because I spent over a year making my film, and I shot the whole thing on my LG V40. So I know how to do that, and I think that was actually the perfect learning ground for becoming a filmmaker. Maybe the perfect way to learn before you get on a proper camera. So now I've already learned a lot on this camera, and I feel like I've come a pretty long way. So anyway, this is shaking a little bit because I'm holding it right in front of me. I'm in the car because it's raining here in the Bronx and it's about to pour, and I didn't want to get caught outside. So I'm finishing this in the car. I just wanted to point those few things out. I hope this clears it up before you start watching. And anyway, thanks again so much for watching, and here's the video. Oh, so one other really important point, which I can't believe I forgot, but I wanted to point out that this is my first video that I shot in 4K. So all the other videos that I put up over the past month have been shot in 1080 at 24 frames per second. This one I decided to get the most out of the camera, so I shot it in 4K. And personally, I can't believe the difference. Like, it looks so different to me. You tell me if you think there's a difference, but I decided, I want to get the most out of this camera. I got myself a desktop computer so I could finish my film. And, that computer is like spec'd out so it can handle 4K video. And oh my God, like, the difference is enormous. So I wanted to point that out as well. This is in 4K. All the other videos that I've done have been 1080. So let me know if you think it's different, but I know I'm about to spend a lot of money buying hard drives because I don't think I can go back to 1080 now. Although I'm about to shoot a documentary, I'll probably shoot it in 1080 because it's probably going to be 60 to 90 minutes long, and I just don't know if I feel like dealing with files that big. But we'll see, you know, because I can't just get a regular hard drive. I got to get a really fast hard drive, and that costs quite a bit of money. You know, like 1 terabyte, about 260, 280 bucks is what I spent on my hard drive. I have a SSD Thunderbolt Glyph Atom hard drive, which is a really good one. So anyway, this is 4K. The other ones are 1080. Just wanted to let you know. Back to the video. So today I want to talk about starting a project, coming up with a great idea, committing to the process, and committing to finish. I think as an artist, this is really, really important, because I think a lot of people, they look at the end as like some kind of a gigantic deal where they're going to be judged, and you know, it's like, oh my God, it's the biggest thing in my life. And they never get anything done. They never get anything finished. And so I have actually taught a lot of workshops on this, 10-minute play workshops, whatever, you know, some kind of creative endeavor where you come up with a great idea, you go through a process, and you complete it. So anybody can come up with a great idea, you know, like everybody in the world comes up with great ideas for everything all the time. So I'm just going to assume that you have a great idea for something, you know, a play, a film, a poem, a book, you know, a painting, whatever. You have a great idea. So what you have to do is take that idea and now commit to the process of actually making it happen. So what do you have to do? Well, I'm going to speak about a theatrical play or a film. First thing you have to do is you have to have the idea, right? You have the idea. Now you have to figure out how you're going to get to the beginning of this idea, meaning how you're going to start this project. Do you have to have the ending already? I don't know about that. Personally, I usually see the entire story as one big thing. Like, I usually can see the whole thing before I even start the project. But I have to figure out, what steps am I going to take? How am I going to make this engaging? How am I going to share this? How am I going to make this the most interesting from beginning to end? You know, we need a beginning, a middle, and an end. So what I usually do is I first write down an outline. Where does this begin? You know, who is the character? You know, so oftentimes what I do is I create character study. You know, whether it's one person, whether it's me in a solo project, whether it's 3 fantasy characters that I've created, I do a character study. I write down who these people are. Like, where do they live? What do they do during the day? You know, what do they do in the morning when they wake up? Do they drink coffee? Do they go running? Do they watch TV? What do they do for work? You know, do they work? What's their family like? What kind of ice cream do they like? You know, what TV shows do they watch? What movies? Do they read books? Who are these people? What do they look like? And I just create a really, really in-depth study of who my characters are, because that's going to allow me to really understand how they're going to walk through the story to get from the beginning to the end. Then I start to think about, you know, because I already have the idea, because again, I'm assuming we have the idea, you know, why is this important for these characters to go through this situation or whatever it is, to have this experience? Like, what does it mean? You know, why do I need to tell this story? Why do they need to get from the beginning of wherever they are to a different destination, you know? So I start to track that, you know. I either make it a day, or I make it a couple of hours, or I make it 20 years, whatever it is. I create a timeline. Where does it begin? Where does it go? And where does it wind up? Right? So, if it's just a few hours, it could be somebody waking up, and then how do they get to lunch? And what happens at lunch? And maybe lunch is going to be some big monumental thing. They're going to see somebody they haven't seen for their entire life, you know, their best friend from childhood, or they're going to meet somebody for the first time who's going to change their life. Or, you know, like, I create this timeline, this fantasy, and I write it out. And in fact, for one of my plays, what I did is I bought a bunch of poster boards, and I wrote out every step of the story from beginning to end as I was working on it, you know, kind of like my yellow brick road. And I would literally put them on the floor of my apartment, and I would walk through the story every day to make sure, first of all, that I wasn't repeating anything, because I had it written down right there. So if I stepped on one of these poster boards, which were like my cobblestone story steps, I would know that I already stepped on this one, you know? So that's just my way of putting a timeline together. So I think that's a good idea, to create a timeline. How is this person or these people going to get to their destination from where they are? Then I start to think about why. Why do they need to get there? You know, why do they even have to wake up today? What is compelling them to go towards this place? Or is it just like a day in the life where suddenly they're going to, like, you know, wind up in a new place in a surprising kind of way, you know? Or is it a destination that they're planning, that they're hoping for? Like in my case, one of my stories, I'm searching for my biological mother. It's very planned out, you know. I'm like making a plan every day. I'm like a private investigator, you know. I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to figure out a map to get to where I need to go. But it doesn't have to be that way. It could also be that somebody's just going through their day-to-day routine and they come upon something that changes everything. I mean, that's one idea. So you have to create a why. Like, what is compelling these people? Is it just their day-to-day dreary life, or a day-to-day life that they love? Is this something that's going to disrupt them? Or did they wake up today intending to do something really important that's going to take them on this fantastical journey that you're sharing with your audience? And then I think about the ending. And, you know, sometimes I have the ending first. Sometimes I don't know the ending until I get there. In one of my projects, it actually took me 6 years to write the ending. I wrote 250 endings to one of my plays. And every ending was good, but it just never felt complete to me. It never felt like I was done. Another quick insert. So obviously I'm talking about, as I was doing performances over that 6-year period, I wrote 250 different endings, and just wanted to clear that up. And so finally, you know, just from my process and from working on it every day and from writing all the time and from thinking and you know, just just kind of immersing myself in this journey, I was finally able to come to an ending that felt right to me. And when it happened, you know. So personally, I'm committed to getting there in however long it takes, you know. But I know I'm going to finish, definitely. So I think if you are somebody, like, I don't have problems finishing projects. I finish projects all the time. But if you're somebody who has problems finishing, I think you should set a time. Like, I need to finish this within 6 days, or 2 weeks, or a month, or I'm giving myself 2 years to make this film. Make a timeline, write it down, stick to it. When I come up with a new play or a screenplay for a film, or, you know, if I were to write a book, which I've never done, but if I were, I mean, I've written poetry books, but if I were to write a novel or something like that, what I do is I actually break out my calendar and I put a schedule in my calendar for a whole year, however long I think it's going to take. And I'm trying to be realistic. Like, if I'm writing a play, you know, let's say I have a play. A good way to kind of get yourself to be able to finish is to come up with a great idea, come up with all this information in terms of a summary, a synopsis, character study, like I said, and submit to a festival. You're probably going to get accepted, because a lot of these theater festivals accept anybody and everybody because they just want to make some money. So submit, and then now you have a date you better finish, because if you don't finish, you're going to get on stage, you're going to embarrass yourself and make everybody in the audience feel really uncomfortable. So that's a good way to do it. Same thing with films. There are plenty of film festivals, things like that. Maybe set up a date, you know, book a theater, book a space, a bookstore, whatever, you know, your apartment, like call people, tell people, maybe put it on social media, you know, find a way to make yourself accountable to finish, you know, so it's not just you. So there's no excuses. You need to finish. So anyway, those are my ideas for how to start a project, you know, come up with a great idea, but how to actually allow it to manifest into something that you can share with other people, or at least that you could say it's done. Like, I came up with this great idea and here's what I have. Check it out. I finished it. It's amazing, you know? And the other thing is this, don't worry about it being the greatest work you've ever done. I mean, the intention should be that every single time. I think you should always intend to do your best work, to be the best version of yourself that you can be, to put everything of yourself into every project, you know, like really, really work hard all the time. It's, you know, that's something that anybody can do. You don't have to be talented. You don't have to be especially gifted to be willing to give all of yourself to a project, you know? Like, that's the least you can do for yourself, you know, be good to yourself. So that's what I think is probably the most important part, but don't get caught up on this needs to be Picasso or John Coltrane or Hendrix, or, you know, this needs to be the greatest thing ever made. Because if you do that, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. And I promise you, those guys, they didn't even think that way. Or those women, I mean, Nina Simone, Aretha, Leontine Price, Joanne Brackeen, Joni Mitchell, you know, Bruce Springsteen, these incredibly prolific artists who put out so much work. You know, Miles Davis did a lot of work that audiences just didn't like. You know, really audiences that loved him so much, but then he would go try something new and they would hate him for it. But he was an artist. He was always trying to grow. He was trying to evolve. He was trying to find new things in his work. But he was always finishing stuff. You know, Prince, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs, you know? Not every song is the greatest song ever written. You know, not everything is Purple Rain or, you know, When Doves Cry or all of his hits. It's got a lot of stuff that were just grooves, you know, but it's all part of the process. So come up with a play, come up with a film, come up with a story, whatever you do, and finish it. And then when you're finished, do another one. Because the thing is, with every project that you do, you're going to get better and better at what you're doing, right? I mean, practice makes perfect. And you know, I don't think any of us ever get to perfect, but you get better every single time if you're committed to yourself, to the work, you know, to the process, to, you have to be willing to kind of, you know, allow the universe around you to inform the work that you're doing as well. You know, keep living your life, you know, continue to be as full a human being as you can, because I think that makes the best artists, you know, because obviously if you have a lot of life experience, you have a lot to pour into your characters or your story. You know, if you're just kind of, you know, in this insular life of just you all the time, I think your work is going to tend to be just that. So, but you know what, if that's your thing, that's fine. Commit to it, start it, get into the process, be willing to work hard, and finish. Because the thing is, when you finish, you're going to start again and do another project, and so on, and so on, and so on. That's a good thing. All right? So anyway, I'm here in, where am I? I think I'm in Dobbs Ferry, New York. I'm always trying to get out of the Bronx and come to beautiful places to make these little videos. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you're well. I hope everybody you love is well. And I hope you're feeling optimistic. And that was a bug that just flew on my nose, sorry. I'm feeling optimistic. I hope you start a project. And here's to finishing every project that we begin. All right, see you on the next one. Peace.